Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Make It Happen today. So, I am joined by Iva, who is a business and mindset coach who helps high performing multi figure business owners break free of their barriers and fall madly in love with their business. Iva is a visionary leader, a transformation enthusiast, and a 7-figure CEO. And she says she is definitely not your guru. Iva, thank you so much for joining me. I'm super, super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor and it's my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. So start by telling us more about you and your background. I want to hear everything.
Sure. So, I'm a business coach and a strategy coach and a mindset coach. And I will tell you, kind of having built a few businesses and having worked with many people building a businesses, there is just the failure percentage is through the roof. I think it's like 5% of entrepreneurs make it to, or like 8% make it to 6 figures, talking US dollars here, and maybe like 2% make it past that. And there is this theme that I have seen with the entrepreneurs who aren't quite making the breakthrough. And it's this constant questioning that goes on, right? And it's this constant self-doubt. It's this like, am I charging too much? Am I greedy? When I ask to be paid for the services, right? Am I, there's this like people feeling like they're a total fraud when they come up there with their offering. It's like, who gave me the authority, the audacity to be doing what I'm doing? You know what I mean? It's this like, I don't have like enough certifications, and all these people over here, they have their PhDs, they have been doing it for 30 years. I have been doing it for 3 minutes. Like, how do I even compare myself to them? And then they typically work with some coach or trainer, and they go like, well, I should just like send my clients to them, because why should people work with me if they can work with this person over here who has all the experience, all the certifications,
Yeah.
And it goes on and on and on and on, right? And the entrepreneurial route is so difficult because it's a constant failure. It's like, it's literally like failing every day. You're putting something out there and you are failing. And that's the process of it. You kind of have to, go through it. But then at some point they go like, I cannot keep doing this. I cannot fail one more time. I cannot have one more failed membership, product, course, one-to-one program, one too many program, one more failed Facebook challenge or online retreat or whatever it is. I cannot go through this one more time. And so they just retreat.
Yeah.
And they retreat and they either shrink down their company or they go out of business and get that job, because it's just more comfortable to do that, because you don't have to face all the self-doubt, all the fears every single day. Right. Yeah. And there's so much more to it. It's like, we often feels like it's arrogant almost of us to be saying, hey, I'm the expert, I'm the one to tell you what to do in your life when I don't have my house in order perfectly, right? Because who does? Yeah. Who does, right? So, it's basically, when it comes to entrepreneurial success, it's all about actually being visible, right? And being in front of people. And there's no magic to it. It's literally just communicating, like what we're doing here right now, right? The camera is on, you're on the podcast, or I'm being interviewed, or I'm on my podcast, I'm teaching and delivering something, right? And people don't do that because they fall for some other thing that they should be doing to avoid all the messy, all the scary, all the feeling like a fraud, the confronting the judgment of others. That does come, right? People judge, that's what they do. So, my story is one huge battle with visibility. So before I went into the coaching business, I actually owned restaurants. Oh, wow. And I was so bad with showing in front of people. I'd literally be washing the dishes in the dish pit, so I don't have to go talk to the guests.
Wow.
Right? Like, I felt like a major imposter talking to my own no, not my own people, but my own customers, I would not go talk to them. Like, who wants to talk to the owner? Like, they just want to eat their food and get out, It's like, and then, in the brick and mortar, it's different from the coaching space, but in the brick and mortar, you have to go and network. You have to go to these like networking meetings and introduce yourself, tell people what you do, and like, hey, come to my restaurant, whatever. And I would go to these networking meetings, and I literally, I don't know if you've ever been in one of those where everybody like stands up and say, hey, my name is so and so, and this is what I do. I'd be like, my heart in my throat couldn't even say my name, how terrified I was to speak in front of people, right? And then that was like my whole life, just mortified of being in front of people, literally mortified, right? And then fast forward, I was forced into visibility. Sometimes when bad things happen to you and you're really forced into it, it's like the best thing that can happen to you. So in 2019, I was found out. I was kind of traveling and doing some workshops and speaking a little bit, but the online world, like speaking online, was still like one of the most terrifying things. I'd never gone live on Facebook, never taught a workshop on Zoom. So it was like, just no, I could figure out how to be with people in the room by that point, because I see them nodding, I see kind of the acknowledgement, the validation in the room. They're doing their thing. But this online thing, when you just like talking, you don't know what the feedback is. You don't know how people are feeling. It was mortifying to me. But thank God I went through a bit of a trauma on my end when I realized, I found out that I would be a single mom to be. I basically got pregnant and the biological father just disappeared completely. And I realized that I could not do the offline speaking anymore. I could not go travel to different locations, because now I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a single mother to a child, no family in the country, very little support, no child support, no government support. And it's like, now I can't travel anymore, right? I can't do speaking because I'm going to have a child. Like, what do you do? And that's when so I had to like basically, cancel all the speaking engagements and basically was starting completely over from scratch. And what followed was this crazy journey of overcoming so much. I cannot even begin to tell you. It was intense. The events that happened like threw me into having to grow really, really, really quickly. And I said yes to all of it. But it was very difficult journey, confronting the fear of being judged, who am I to teach you, blah, 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 when, this and this and that. And yes, we went through basically starting over from scratch, me almost going broke, to our first $1 million quarter at the first quarter of 2021. Wow. So that's the story.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And, what the stuff that I will share with you, what that allowed me to do is, running virtual retreats with more than 2,000 registrants, 300 people on Zoom, recording a bunch of episodes, teaching live all the time. And that's how you grow your business, right? That's how you grow your business. You show up, you teach, you have audience, you have people who are like, oh, I get this. This makes so much sense to me. I want to work with you, right? So that's how that happened. Okay. But the journey to get there from like mortified was something. So yeah, that's the story.
I think that's, that's an incredible story and an incredible journey. And I think for me, what I take away from that story is, one, your bravery to put yourself out there and do something that terrified you, right? So you just got over the face-to-face and like, okay, I've got a handle on this now. I can do this. To go, oh God, now I need to do this online. Is, each stage you're kind of pushing yourself forward and forward. And I think that, to me, that's where a lot of people fail, because the fear holds them back.
Yes.
And I think also, when you was talking about the entrepreneur life and the such small percentage of people that make it, That's one, people pushing through their fear barriers, but two, the resilience of people, of the knockbacks, of the things that don't work out. It's those entrepreneurs that keep going and going and going despite all of those things that happen, despite the things that go wrong. They just keep going because they know that's the journey for them.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I think the reason why such a small percentage of people make it is exactly that. They are doing everything other than showing up consistently, being visible. What they're doing, they fall kind of for this, like, oh, just build a funnel or go work on your course, right? And I've done this like over and over and over. I fall for it. Go, make that course, make that membership, spend 3 months in hiding, building something, and nobody buys it. And I'm like, oh, I've just changed my messaging again. I'm going to do this over and over and over. So we're in this like finding niche and pivoting and really never putting ourselves out there. And that's I think, you see this over and over. I've seen this just so many times. It's like this never ending pivoting and niching and confusionitis and who do I work with? And then there's a change and do it again. Right.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I know from my background, sometimes it's the people just shout so much about what they're doing and they're always visible. And sometimes they always seem to be busy. So they've always got stuff coming to them. And you think, well, I spent months just not doing any press or any PR and kind of just became stagnant in what I was doing at work. But then when I took a step back and realized, actually, it's because I'm not putting my face back out there and I'm not putting my business out there. That's why I became stagnant and didn't move forward and didn't get any new clients. Yes, it was great that I was maintaining what I was doing, but I didn't grow at all as a person or as a business. It just plateaued. And the minute that I started doing a bit more, even just social media, just posting a bit on social media, sharing links to various things, asking questions, all of a sudden, I am kind of the busiest I've ever been. And it's only I've only increased what I've done just maybe 10, 20%. I've not even reached the capacity of, putting myself out there. And all of a sudden my business has grown to almost more work than I can handle at the minute.
Love that so much. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So tell us, what are some of the things that people should look out for? So what are any mistakes that you may have made along your journey, or that perhaps you've seen some of your clients make, that our listeners can look out for or take learnings from?
Yeah. So just like I said, it's this hiding behind courses, right? Working on content, like behind the scenes, right? The behind the scenes work. I'll have to prepare. I have to get ready. I have to get my brand perfect. I have to spend hours in Canva creating the perfect post. I have to prepare for the content of what I'm going to teach in my program, because that never leads you there. The minute you actually start talking to humans that are in front of you, everything changes. Because you start, humans start talking to you and they start telling you, hey, this is, and they start giving you ideas and you start working with people and everything starts shifting. But, you cannot figure this out in your head. Right. So the biggest mistake is the behind the scene work, all the behind the scene work. Like, people get stuck on so many things, like, oh, I got to sort out my legal paperwork and incorporate and do my coaching contract and whatever. I'm just like, let it go. Do it without a contract. Nobody's going to sue you until you have money. Like, it doesn't matter. Just get the clients. You'll figure it out later, It's like, people are like, no, that's crazy. And I'm like, literally make it your number one thing, just to 80% of your workday, visibility. That's it. The behind the scenes, the operations, it's nice, it's important, but that's when we tend to hide. Right.
Because I think that's where people are they're kind of comfortable and they're prepared. Like you said, it's kind of all this preparing to prepare, isn't it? And I think you are absolutely right about that. And I actually went on a course last weekend. It was a 1-day public speaking course. And the teacher was so great, and it gave me, lots of inspiration and things like that. And I knew that I was on the right path, but she had a plan for the day. And actually we had to fast track the end of the day because she was feeding off us as a class. And like you say, it doesn't always go to plan, because you start having conversations and things change, and your perfect plan that you've spent 3 months on all of a sudden doesn't come to fruition, because that's not what your audience want, or they're expecting something else, or, maybe they've got a lot more things to say than what you had planned. And therefore, she, like this lady, she had to fast track the end of it. And kind of do it off the cuff, which I thought was really interesting. And it just resonated with what you just said.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Anything else that you could think of, or any great tips? The biggest one, obviously, that you focus on is just making yourself visible. I mean, have you found any channels work better than others, or does it depend on the industry as well?
Yeah. So, what I really, really want to share with you is like what it actually takes to get to the 7 figures. Would that be okay?
Yeah, 100% would love that.
Yeah. So the thing is, yes, there's strategies that you need to implement that have to do with visibility and doing online events and blah, 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 and doing podcast interviews. What's more importantly, that you have to become the person who has the capacity to sort of attract and help the audience. Does that make sense? So the way I think about it is that you have to adopt different skill sets. I call them superpowers.
I love that. That
will help you get there. And those are the things that I had been working on intensely for the past 2 years. And, I'll tell you what they are, but it's like I have to kind of know how to get there. But it's being able to inspire people, which is like you can teach all day long on camera, but if you're not inspiring anybody, people are not going to want to take the action, right? So that's the first one. Another one is owning your true power, right? Being able to be who you are, that can be very difficult to get there. Inspired flow, which is, as an entrepreneur, we need to create, right? We need to trust ourselves. We need to move in a flow, and we need to move fast, right? You want to go from 0 to 7, you need to receive the inspiration, you need to be able to take action. Then there's alignment, and then there's integrity, and then there's love. So how does this work, right? Working from a place of love and service, being in alignment, being in integrity, being in inspired flow, being able to inspire others. The way to get there is not like, okay, I'm going to become this. It's a process of letting go that which isn't that. Okay. So I talk about in my courses, I talk about the 6 freedoms, because freedom from something, right? Freedom. We talk about freedom so much, and we think, freedom of location and financial freedom. It's not that. Freedom from your programming, freedom from your self-doubt, freedom from your not good enoughness, all those things then lead to you being able to step into your superpowers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So for example, the ability to inspire people, which is like, pretty crucial if you show up on camera and you teach and you run retreats or you work with clients. It's like you need to be able to influence them. You need to be able to inspire them into action, right? So, but to be able to do that, what you need to let go of is the freedom, the judgment of others. and the opinions of ourselves that we have, right? So in order to do that, you have to let go of what does so-and-so think of me? What are people going to think when I go out there? Are they going to think she's not qualified enough? Are they going to think, you know what, who is she to say ABC? You know, the opinions that you have of yourself, right? It's this content like, am I qualified enough? Am I, worthy of this? Like, can I really charge this? So it's this constant letting go of this so that you can step into who you are, right? Then, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say that definitely it's that fear of that imposter syndrome. It's the fear of failure. It's the fear of people judging you 100%. And sorry, my cat's sitting in a box right now, if you can hear that. And so many of us hold that with us. And I think that's incredible. And I try and work on that a lot. I try and work on moving through that and trying to not let that hold me back in business and in life in general. But it's a work in progress. It's not something like you say, you wake up one day and all of a sudden it's gone. It is something that you have to work on over and over.
Yes. And the techniques that I work with, because there's a difference, sometimes when you use traditional mindset techniques and you work on things, you sort of end up suppressing and repressing and pushing away that which you don't want to be, and it never works. It always comes back, right? So what I do is a lot of emotional release, which means instead of trying to make this need for approval, this need for acknowledgement, this need to be liked, whatever comes up, instead of making that go away, we welcome it, because we have spent lifetimes making it go away, right? Lifetimes. I don't want to feel the fear, the scarcity. It's like, I hate waking up and wondering where's the next client going to come from. So I just, I'm going to make it go away, right? Instead, we welcome it all. We welcome it all. And we allow all of that to come up. And what tends to happen when you do that, it's a surrender process, right? It's a letting go process, but it's through actually welcoming every single emotion that we have been trying to repress and suppress our whole entrepreneurial career, welcoming it up, letting it bubble up. And then it's like, it just starts leaving because it just wanted to be heard. Does that make sense?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very
interesting. And it seems very counterintuitive because we have done the opposite our whole life. We're like, oh my God, if I feel this fear, that's really bad. It reminds me of when I was sitting in these meetings. It's like, oh my God, fear, go away. I don't want to feel this nervousness because people are going to see that nervousness, right? Instead of resisting the nervousness, instead of trying to make it go away, I teach my clients to do the exact opposite. Instead of talking to yourself about it, shifting whatever, and putting some poses and make it go away. Instead, give yourself 2 or 3 minutes to actually let this bubble up. Right? Allow yourself to feel it.
That's
and
really
you would
powerful.
be surprised. You'd be surprised. It's one of the things that I teach is like, yes, you have to be aware because you have to notice where resistance comes up in business. Right? And then you start releasing it. You start you have to accept it in order to release it. And then you start stepping into a very different frequency, and you start stepping into these superpowers where you're realigning yourself at a different level, a much different confidence, right? And then that's what starts attracting a different level of client, a different volume in your business, a different team that you're going to attract to help you, whether it be a powerful salesperson or a closer to come into your business, help you closing sales, somebody who's super great at booking you on podcasts or whatever it is, right? But it's like, it's the freedom from a few things, right? So the first one is second guessing yourself, the fear of failing, freedom from the fear of making mistakes that holds people back so much, freedom from resisting taking different action in business, right? freedom from judgments and opinions of ourselves, right? Freedom from collective programming, which is one of the things that I like to work with, because we all have the shoulds, how things should look like in business, right?
Yeah.
And marketing and sales. Oh my goodness, there's just so much out there, and people end up like copying other people and doing what they think they should be doing, and it never works out, right? So it's the freedom from the collective shoulds as well as our own shoulds. There is the freedom from wanting validation, right? Approval. We're always like, oh my God, we always see these people that are watching. I just want them to like what I'm selling. I want them to, click the like button or, approve of me in some shape or form. And as we grow our businesses, it turns into the need for respect, or, being the superwoman or whatever that is, look in a certain way.
Yeah.
So the work to entrepreneurial freedom, right, is letting go of all these things. And that's not easy work, right? When I tell that to people, they don't like it. They're like, just give me the strategies and the tactics. I'm like, no, because I can give this to you all day long. And I've seen this so many times. I can give this to you all day long. I can tell you the exact blueprint, the strategy that I did, and da da da. And then two things happen. Either it works for them and they make a lot of money, and then they sabotage themselves because they accept a lot of clients into their business, but because they're still searching for the approval and the validation, all these things, they shut it down. They burn it down to the ground. Their next launch is nothing, right? So they go this like grow and then crash, right?
Yeah.
Or people, I give them the tactics and the strategies, and they just cannot bring themselves to implement it because they have, this is so within them, the fear of, the perfectionism and the fear of like, what are people going to think? And the confusionitis that they're in, right? As a protection for all this not good enoughness, just, prevents them from starting or scaling their business in the first place, right? Yeah. So the work in building our business is like a 2%, knowing the right strategies. But it's almost like any strategy can work for you, really, as long as it's not the hiding behind the courses and memberships and whatever,
Yeah.
but as long as you're showing up, you can be doing podcasts, you can be doing live events, you can be doing Facebook challenges, you can be doing Zoom free retreats, you can be doing, live webinars or whatever. Like any of these things can work. You need some consistency, you need follow through, you need to know how to, make a call to action and how to get people on a consult and whatever. But the work is really this. It's like eliminating and weeding out everything that keeps your mind from being free. Does that make sense?
Completely. Absolutely, completely. And I really love this. And it gives me things, sort of part of this, I feel like I've tried over the last year. And so it really resonates with me, what you're saying. And I love how you've broken it down into the different superpowers. I think that's amazing. And I've tried that before, but in a slightly different way. And so I was talking to a friend, and she was saying about how you write something on a piece of paper and you kind of burn it and go, and you sort of recognize it, accept it, and say, thank you, it's off into the universe, I don't need you anymore. So that negativity or that self-doubt, thank you, self-doubt, I acknowledge you, I recognize you, I'm sending you out into the universe because I don't need you anymore. And that's a similar thing. When you was listening to me, I kind of so when you was listening to me, when I was listening to you, and I remembered that, hearing that from my friend and thinking how powerful that was. But you go into even so much more detail than that, and I think it really is so powerful. And I also think about when you go through that, or if like these entrepreneurs that can't get aligned with that and stay stuck in their ways and stay stuck in this business position, it's almost like they're rowing against the tide, isn't it? It's like they're rowing upstream. It's not flowing to them. The business isn't flowing to them. And that's what it makes me think of when I think about not being aligned with your superpowers. It's you're going against the grain. You're worrying about other people. You're pushing. You're making life harder for yourself because you're second guessing everything and you're worrying about everything.
Yeah, this pushing that happens what that really is not letting go of fears around security, right?
Mm.
So we do this thing, that's one of the things that is so essential to release. It's this constant search for certainty and security, right? So what happens is, we just really want to make sure that something is going to happen. We want to control it. We want to control the outcome. And we have made up that it's going to happen through checking all the boxes, constant push, going overboard with the action. And oftentimes it's not even the right action, right? It's this like getting stuck in all the other things, like 99 things that won't make the difference and avoiding the one thing that will. But again, when we dissolve this need to control and need for security, which is terrifying to most people, right? And I'm not saying go dissolve your security. I'm saying dissolve your need for security, because those are two different things. You can either have financial security or you can need financial security. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the wantingness and cravingness of that is actually keeping you from achieving your financial goals in a way. And that is not to say if you dissolve it, all of a sudden you're going to be rich. No, but not dissolving is going to keep you from having abundance in your life.
Yeah.
Right. So they go into this constant push because it feels safe. Like if I just stay in action and I keep doing things, I'm going to feel like I'm on track. I'm in control. Right. And it's like, it's like when you stop taking action, it's like, oh my God, I need to be doing something. So
yeah, I completely understand that. It just sums me up. I think I need to be in control and
it's and the interesting thing, with our clients, we kind of like have, I see them kind of like two camps, right? Because we all have security and certainty issues, right? Because we're like, oh my God, it needs to work out. But half the people are the push people, the push, like go overboard with action. And half the people control their world by not taking any action, right?
Yeah.
They're in procrastinitis. It's like, okay, I'll gather all the information. I'll watch all the workshops. I will take all the good notes. And then when I feel like I know enough, I'll take action. So it's just what is our perfect shade of controlling the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And the work is really being free of that. It's letting go of all of that. And only and this is the magic. This is really the magic. Because as scary as it is to let go of that, because you've been doing that your whole life, however many years you have been alive, you have been doing that your whole life. Like you feel like you really can control this through like, or maybe I'm projecting, that's me, it's like, I'll time block everything and I'll do this and I'll stuff as many meetings in, and it's like check all the boxes and then, something will happen. And when we do that, and when we realize the need to surrender that, it can be very, very, very scary. Right? But the superpower that you get from that, it's like you get, well, number one, you get a connection back with your soul, which a lot of us control freaks, or me, former control freak, don't have, because we're so thickly wrapped up in this doingness. And it's like, when somebody tells us, okay, go talk to your higher self, well, I don't know, I'm talking to my ego here. Am I talking to my ego? Am I talking to my soul? I don't know. I can't tell the difference. So I'm just going to like do what I've been doing, And it's the scariest thing. It's really a process. It's an emotional release process. Like these things have to come out of you, but when they do, and you stick to it, and you start stepping into a very different frequency that is very connected. And all of a sudden the ideas start flowing and things start becoming easier. It's like, it's less action. It's not that you shouldn't be in action. You absolutely should. Like we spent the first half of this podcast talking about the importance of taking an action and being visible. That's still true, right? That's still true. It's the addiction and the attachment to that, if that makes sense. When you let that go, it opens the flow. It opens the ideas. It opens the your superpowers, right? It
Mm.
opens the inspired flow and creation, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, it just feels so good, and you don't burn out. It just feels so good. You're receiving the ideas, you're kind of channeling, and I don't like that word. Let's choose a different word. You're basically like pulling information from your higher self, and that's the place from you where you're teaching from, right? And
Yeah.
it's just such a fun place. Like, I will tell you, just experientially, when I'm teaching from my left brain and making stuff up, it exhausts me. you know it exhausts me. Like, I will sit on Zoom, when I'm in a flow of inspiration, I can basically teach 6-8 hours a day and be fine, because
Yeah.
I don't get exhausted by that. But when we are constantly in making stuff up in our left brain, it gets exhausted, and it gets tiresome, and people tend to burn out. So it's very, very important to open that flow, but it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work. It's very scary for people. Those are the 6 freedoms that I think are essential. It's freedom from stuff, right? So you're very
Yeah.
free, you're gonna let stuff go. So it's and in the end, I think that's why we're here. Because I don't think we're here to accumulate, build a big business, save our 401k. I know you guys don't have that in the UK, but retirement plan.
Retirement. Yeah.
Something. Excuse me. But it is about making progress, spiritual progress, right?
Yeah. 100%. And I think everything that you've told us, for me personally, really does resonate with me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure so many of our listeners can use all of these ideas and skills, right? That's skill building within yourself.
Mhm.
So I am going to list these out in the show notes, if that's okay, and kind of give everybody a reminder of your top superpowers, how you break them down so everyone can see. And I think it's been incredible. I personally have learned so much, and I hope our listeners have as well. So let's wrap this up. Why don't you tell us how we can find you? If people want to learn more about you, follow more, listen more, how can we find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So, a couple things. So, we have solutions for anything from free retreats all the way to group programs, in-person retreats that we're doing this summer, an in-person retreat in Costa Rica, and private coaching. So if anybody's interested in finding out more about that, then the website for that is leadersbreakfree.com. Then, if you want to listen to my show, it's called the Break Free Show on iTunes. And I also have a freebie for the listeners in the US and Canada. I don't think it works in the UK, but we have a really, really powerful, very experiential training. It's the 90-minute break free process. It's a workshop where we go into experientially releasing some of the things we talked about today, so they can actually get a sense of what that looks like in real life. And we work on the need for validation, attention, acknowledgement, things like that. So to get access, they can text the word voice to this number that I have. I'm going to give it to you as well, but it's 719-285-0850, or it's also listed on my website.
Amazing.
So I'm going to chat that to you as well. But yes, those are, I think, the 3 ways, just depending on where people are.
Fantastic. That is incredible. And I am so excited for everybody to follow you. I'm going to list everything in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, everything, will be detailed below of where everyone can find you. I've learned so much. Thank you so much for sharing all of this incredible information with us, all of your journey, and it has been amazing for us. So thank you again.
Thank you so, so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right. And for our listeners, thank you so much. And we'll be back again next week.